Welcome to SandCity Sports. I'm your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King, and we're back again to bring you all the sports and current events news stories that you need to know. Folks, it's finally arrived. This is the last day of September, and so, as far as I'm concerned, the word summer can now be something of a distant memory. We're crossing over into October tomorrow. Driving over here, I already start to see some of the Halloween decorations, some of the lighting. Oh, I don't know what to do with myself. Thank goodness there'll be candy. And actually, speaking of which, here at the Cape Cod Media Center, we're having a haunted house throughout the month of October. So all of you local folks out there, in YouTube land and on Channel 99, get on over here to the Cape Cod Media Center. Enjoy the haunted house. It's going to be a great production. But for those of us who are fair weather fans, and who enjoy the summer environs, again, we have to stick together, brace ourselves as we head into autumn writ large. But to get into the business, this is SandCity Sports, to get into the sporting business, NBA preseason will kick off this week. That is a thrilling development for basketball fanatics everywhere, and for this fanatic in particular. But the NFL season has really kicked into gear. We are at the quarter pole, and so we're starting to see the teams separate themselves, and this new journey is taking form. We will start with the Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints, because this contest exemplified what I just said. You had Dallas Cowboys coming in undefeated. I think the Saints had lost one game, 2-1. I believe that's correct, but they were playing without their first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, Drew Brees. The game was down in the Delta. It was in the Superdome. Okay? It was in New Orleans, great state of Louisiana. So that certainly played a factor. But the result surprised many people as the Dallas Cowboys fell. We will get that score for you on the screen. It eludes my mind presently. But it was a battle. And, New Orleans Saints, without their guy, Teddy Bridgewater, no slouch. But they won a low-scoring, back-and-forth contest with a team who many people believed could represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Surprising, listen, even though, you're going to, in many respects, back the favorite, people had mentioned many things in terms of this contest and how it could play out that came to fruition. First of all, it's incredibly difficult to play in the Superdome. That is a legitimate home field advantage. We know something about home field advantage here in New England, particularly Foxborough Stadium, and what it means for the Patriots to have those home games in the playoffs year in and year out, and that having a huge role in the fact that they went to, 9 Super Bowls in the last 2 decades. Okay, so the game being in New Orleans and just watching, it definitely pushed, it affected the Dallas Cowboys offense. Now, the Saints defense had a lot to do with that, but, this high-powered machine these first couple weeks, people were saying, Shannon Sharp, others, listen, Dak Prescott, QBR 128, offense scoring, 20, 30 points a game. Let's pump the brakes on that. Dallas Cowboys really haven't played anybody. That appeared to be the case as, they didn't even reach, they stayed in the teens, didn't get above 20 points. Didn't necessarily have many breakthrough plays either. And Superdome, Sean Payton, him being a wily, somewhat underappreciated coach, I think those things played a factor, and a team of Dallas Cowboys, they're now at a crossroads. Their schedule is going to get considerably more difficult, as many people, were pointing to, and I'll get that again for you on the screen, and we'll see how they are able to handle that adversity. In conclusion, with this first ball game, the Sunday night game, they kind of concluded a great day of football. It's really wide open. That's one of the things we've mentioned, and I'll state again, but the NFL, you don't know year in and year out. All of these teams, a team without their most important, maybe their best player, beats a team that's firing on all cylinders, you don't know. And so those expectations for the Cowboys now have to be modified and, feast to famine, as they say in the restaurant business. Now they're looking at a situation coming up against another tough opponent, next week, where they have to stop this quote-unquote slide. I mean, one game is it a slide, and get themselves back moving in the right direction. Speaking of teams moving in the right direction, and also A Tale of Two Cities, if you want to reference, Mr. Charles Dickens, that outstanding author, and that classic work. But what happened yesterday in Denver also highlighted how the NFL season takes no prisoners. You could have Hall of Fame management executives. Of course, I'm referring to Mr. John Elway. You could have your franchise quarterback injured in the first quarter of the first game. Of course, now I'm obviously talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mr. Tom Coughlin. Throw that out the window. When you're in the arena, as we've alluded to in recent episodes, as Mr. Teddy Roosevelt famously highlighted, that's a realm unique in and of itself, in which all the speculation, the you just have to get it done. Where am I going with this? Jacksonville and that comeback and that victory on the road, and what we saw from a rookie in Gardner Minshew, and how he continues to impress and get the job done. I want to talk about unheralded. I want to talk about no name. I want to talk about out of, from a different solar system. I want to say out of no, But his play, and we'll get to some other quarterbacks that have come in and just made a name for themselves and established themselves in a very, NFL quarter. I'm sorry, this is the most prestigious position in sports, and you just cannot forecast it. You have 6th-round picks who may be the greatest player of all time. You have number 1 overall picks who are just devoured and just chewed up, spit out, never to be heard from again. It's fascinating. But what Gardner Minshew did in terms of after the Broncos and Joe Flacco, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, he handled business. Drove them down the field. They scored and took the lead. Gardner Minshew, who is this guy? Okay? Drove the Jaguar. I believe there was a notable 3rd down conversion. We're going to get that graphic up for you and that statistic up for you. But to put them in position, drove them all the way down into the red zone, and their kicker sealed the deal. And now we look at, I believe Jacksonville is 2-2. Yeah, they are 2-2 because they lost the first game, and they had a tough game against Tennessee, if I remember correctly. But remaining in contention. And this was a huge victory for them. I believe the Broncos, if they're not 0-4, they're 1-3. And it's gotten late early for them. Extremely unfortunate, just reported today. Their pass rusher, Chubb, opposite Von Miller, gone for the season with a torn MCL. So it's one of these situations where, insult to injury for Denver, who I want to talk about a little bit further as I get my win. We have, we've got a lot to get to in this episode. I don't want to drag out the first couple of storylines as I've been known to do, but look, in terms of Denver, John Elway, love and respect, ambassador for the game. It's time for him to go. Yeah. Period. End of story. He's missed on so many quarterbacks. the team, coach, it's just, when he continues to be there and all the other parts continue to be moved around and the results are the same, you have to say either he takes a demotion and you bring in, somebody to, whether it be a football lifer or whether it be a boy genius, as we've seen, there has to be a change. Okay, because Denver, you could point to, it's been some time since that Peyton Manning championship, led by the defense, frankly, and he just has not, for a Hall of Fame, let's just call it what it is. He is the equivalent, now, I'm going there. He's the equivalent of what Michael Jordan is in basketball. He just is. And you can say they've been in 2 Super Bowls, they won 1, point taken. So that could be a notable and drastic overstatement. But that being established, he just needs to go. It's not, the tide's not turning. Denver has been bad since they've won that last Super Bowl. And so we'll see. I just saw, report, Brian Cashman, quick aside, been with the Yankees for close to 2 decades, which is, so, and the Yankees, and again, Brian, he's had great success, and they've had droughts. And now going into this postseason, we'll get a lot more baseball next week for sure. I love postseason baseball, but it might be time for the winning again, so you can use that argument with John Elway. Maybe but these last 3 and 4 years have been abysmal. Now the Jaguars, I'm a Tom Coughlin fan. A lot of people, I just think it's unfair, frankly, how Tom Coughlin is criticized for being old school, in terms of not coddling people and players resenting, he faced off against Bill Belichick twice and won both. All right. He won the first game, undefeated season. They had a rubber match. He won again. The man knows his business. He needs to be respected. And the way that Belichick, is almost a marble man. Quote a phrase from Ken Burns' outstanding Civil War documentary. But they're the same, and their personality types are the same. Kind of surly, say what they mean what they say. Don't suffer fools. Belichick, people just roll with it, smile. Coughlin, he gets all this slack when you look at the results. AFC Championship game 2 years ago. This year, again, lose your quarterback. There's issues with Jalen Ramsey, who, by the way, last reported, the team offered 2 first-round picks. The Jaguars said absolutely not, and I respect that. Trade deadline, we'll get that stat up for you, is coming up. And Jalen Ramsey, one of the top defensive players in the league, and this new era, this new wave of player empowerment, which I'm 100% in support of. But again, it's a 2-way street. Marriage, 2-way street. Excuse me again. I know what it is, folks. Not getting sick. Fortunately, I will, get a little case as the seasons change. But back to the point. It's that, after the whole Kyrie situation, when he really bullied his way out of Cleveland and they capitulated, the landscape in the NBA and the NFL has shifted, and the market has frankly corrected itself. Players, if you want to demand a trade, and you're fed up and you're done, okay. But these teams on the other side are, we're not going to, back down, if you will, or sell low. We're going to get the deal that we want to get. If that means that you have to sit out, i.e. Anthony Davis, and just really waste a half a season, which was a terrible crime, for the NBA and all the parties involved. And Dale Demps should have took that deal from Magic Johnson, and that was a good reason why he got booted. Okay, and you got David Griffin in there, who's done an outstanding job. Okay, but you're gonna have to. You're not just going to get everything that you want like Kyrie did, some years back. So I hope that they do find a team, that is amenable to Jalen Ramsey, because he's an outstanding player and he will help a contender. But the Jaguars, i.e., San Antonio Spurs, and getting DeMar DeRozan, they're going to get what they want as well, and that's just good. But great to see, for me at least. I don't know if there's any drag. How many of you are Jaguars fans? Tom Coughlin and those guys doing their thing. We got to talk about the Titans. We got to talk about the Fat Cats. Not necessarily because that has kind of negative connotation. But the 2 teams that I'm looking forward to seeing meet in the AFC Championship game, that being Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots. Because both of these teams fought through some adversity to get the job done and remain undefeated. Kansas City in Detroit, falling behind Mahomes, bringing them back to get the go-ahead touchdown, or to set up the go-ahead touchdown down the stretch great game in terms of yardage. No touchdowns, interestingly enough, but also no interceptions. So that continues to speak to his MVP status. Even when he doesn't light it up with 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. I don't know if he had 7 touchdowns. That's an overstatement, but he's still not turning the ball over, and that needs to be noted and respected. In Detroit, with a quarterback who I respect and doesn't get enough credit in my view, Matt Stafford. Matt Patricia, the coach there, setting things. That was a great game for them. It really gave Kansas City all they can handle. But you see why this team is favored. In many regards to go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, or at least make the AFC Championship game. For that rubber match with New England Patriots, outstanding comeback victory for the Patriots in Buffalo. First of all, shout out and respect to Buffalo, a team that's doing it their way, and no fanfare, no expectations, but they've been competitive. What are they? What were they? 2-1, 3-1? They might have been 3-0. They might have been undefeated. Okay, we'll get that. They gave the Patriots all they can handle, and that defense had Tom Brady on his heels. We're starting to miss Demaryius Thomas here in Titletown. The whole Antonio Brown fiasco. That's not talked about enough. How the Patriots just gave him away, for less than a bag of Chi-Chi beans. Bad move then, bad move now. Didn't see any, especially Antonio. You make way for, obviously he's Antonio Brown, so that just made no sense to me. And I think they might have got like a second. They didn't even get a tremendous haul in return for a guy who, he's been injured these first couple weeks, but could have, would have. Now you got to go out and get another receipt. And that's that kind of showed. Edelman injury, he did play, but not 100%. So I credit Buffalo. The AFC least, Rob Parker uses that term frequently. Not a huge Patriots fan, not a huge Brady or Belichick fan. But it's good to see these teams, the Jets and the Bills, particularly Dolphins, but represent themselves better in a better fashion, to make this division more competitive, and that only bolsters the Patriots' argument, for this dynastic, greatest franchise of all time, so on and forth. So those two teams remaining. Cleveland Browns. Talk about a bounce-back game. I believe that was on the road in Baltimore, scoring 40 points, beating a stout and talented Baltimore Ravens team by double digits. You got to Freddie Kitchens for all of the abuse that he took, and in many regards, rightfully so. Right, 4th and goal on the 1, and you don't run it not one time. You run a draw on 4th and 9. Okay, that was an atrocious series against the Rams at home, I believe. After you drove all the way down the field, and a lot of people, Rex Ryan, was getting after Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, not having it. Those guys going back and forth. They have answered the bell. Speaking of which, we discussed some boxing because it was an outstanding fight this weekend in terms of Spence Porter. We'll get there, but to the Cleveland Browns, the point about the Cleveland Browns, solid victory, even though it hurt my fantasy team markedly because my man Odell Beckham, did not get the rock. Total of 4 points. Okay, so I'm blaming Freddie Kitchens. If I do go down, okay, my arch nemesis in fantasy sports. I have a couple arch nemesis in the league, but one of them, Mr. Pete Sherman. Come on now. Chubb did what he did. Frankly, I didn't realize the man, they talked about it on one of those long touchdown runs that he had. He timed at 22 miles an hour. That's basically the equivalent of an Olympic sprinter. So I didn't know he got down like that. So hey, if it had to be his day, fine. We doggone it, Freddie Kitchens. Let my man Odell eat, please. I gotta get these fantasy wins. It's a cash league. I got debts, I got bills. I need to recoup some of this investment. If you could, help me out there. But a great win for the Cleveland Browns. Little matchup tonight. Steelers and Bengals. Steelers got to right there. Two teams again that have to right their season, get on the right track. I inherited what was this guy saying? Awazi, Kaiser Soze. Where's this guy going? I inherited Juju Smith-Schuster. What is that quote from? Who was it? There's a movie that was in. Who was it? I gotta get. I'm becoming forgetful on my old list. Back to the sports, folks. We will try to find these movie references that are just language. I'm not communicating effectively here. But Steelers and Bengals, a must-win game for both of these organizations, particularly the Steelers, who need to compete for the playoffs, be in that conversation, not allow this season to just go all the way down the drain for a historic franchise and a coach who many people respect and root for. You have to produce. And this losing Big Ben, that's a lot, but he's not a spring chicken. You should have a backup that's ready to come in. Big Ben is not in his mid-20s, he's in his mid-30s, late 30s, probably. Okay, so, Mason, Rudolph, Randolph, get the job done. Juju, you're on my fantasy team now. We need you to ball out. Help me get these W's, okay, and move from there. About 10 minutes left, and much more to get to. We'll that was the NFL. Those are the major storylines. Okay, I missed one. Okay, let me get to it. I'm not all the way out of bounds. Vontaze Burfict, suspended for the year by the league. Here's my take on that, okay? This is a player who can be known and called with accuracy a dirty player. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th incident with this guy where, he is out of bounds in terms of how he is, in terms of his conduct. Now look, that being said, let's make it clear. This was a difficult play to manage and navigate for a defender. Okay, because the offensive player was basically in a sitting Indian style. Caught the ball, he's on the ground, it's almost like if you're sitting down. Okay, and that defender is coming in at an angle at a high rate of speed. Obviously he's defenseless. And so the way that he did hit him with the crown of his head, but folks, we need to recognize how, he wouldn't have been able to get his shoulder. If he would have hit him with his shoulder pads, he would have just basically dove headfirst into the ground and injured himself. Okay, this was a tough play. This was not spearing. I want to make that clear. Okay, had to look at the definition. We'll get it up for you on the screen. But a spearing is like, you're watching the movie 300. The guys run up and just huck the spear. Spearing, you launch yourself. Okay, put your arms on your side and dive into somebody. Okay, in the old days, many times, unfortunately, and we had catastrophic injuries. When a player was on the ground, face down, players would launch themselves onto this player who's, and you could. That's a terrible play. It's banned from the game, and it needed to be banned. But this was, in my view, a bang-bang play in which, the target was so low. His only other option, which many other players might have utilized, would be to run up and just kind of put his arm, because he was already, his behind was on the ground, legs were kind of almost on the ground, to just kind of put his arm on his shoulder pad down. That's what, sometimes you see, a player kind of falls down, and, a lot of times this happens with DBs, and they'll just kind of put their hands on it like this, boom, so that was his only other option. He didn't take that option, but this was not the worst of the worst for Mr. Burfict, with his record, and the amount of times he's been fined and suspended, but it was a tough play for the defender. That needs to be noted as well. People talking about he needs to be banned for his career. That's out of line, out of bounds for this hit. Okay, out of bounds. And the narrative in terms of the hit that Josh Allen took as a runner, that was a legal hit. Okay, shoulder. Okay, these are huge people. You cannot tackle somebody without the helmets contacting one another. It just can't happen. Okay, so yes, there are helmets, but in the process of tackling, just because the helmets contact each other doesn't mean a defender led with his helmet, or a runner. A lot of times a running back will lower this, do the same thing. Okay, football, you need to do and be kind of on your toes in terms of how these players are officiating and understanding the intent, okay, along with the content. NBA season, just so excited, for it to kick off, and it's just going to be outstanding. We have parity being restored. The age of the super team is over. The Western Conference is so loaded, as we've just talked about, top to bottom. There's not a weak team in the West. Even the Phoenix Suns, they have the young studs, Devin Booker, Ayton, a great coach, and Monty. It's just top to bottom loaded. We do have some rebuilding teams in the East, but the top of the East is unbelievable. It hurts that we lost Big Al, him going to Philadelphia. Philadelphia could win the NBA championship. No, hands down. Could beat any team in the West with that starting five, as far as I'm concerned. Ben Simmons, who is coming into his prominence. A Magic Johnson type of player. Yes, I went there. Okay, Josh Richardson, a 3-and-D guy, reminds me of Trevor Ariza. Tobias Harris, people don't recognize, just because he's not one of these explosive guys, how efficient and consistent he is. Al Horford, same thing. Okay, just because these guys aren't doing windmills and 360s, these guys get the job done, particularly in money time. And Joel Embiid's a top 5 player in the NBA. Okay, he needs to keep his head on right and focus on first things first, but he's top 5, period. Okay, they got a solid bench. That did hurt that they lost JJ, but so the top teams in the East, Milwaukee's going to be back. Obviously, Giannis, Middleton, Bledsoe, Brogdon, that loss kind of hurts. Pat Connaughton, mass-made guy, he's going to step up and get the job done and be there. Indiana will bounce back. Oladipo, it's just great. Okay, and then the storylines that we have in terms of the up-and-coming team. I'm looking forward to Zion. Okay, this is a young Charles Barkley. You want to talk about what I think Zion Williams is going to be? Go ahead and look at Charles Barkley's highlights early in his career. Okay, Charles needed Moses Malone to kind of motivate him. Zion has a little bit more of a motor as a young man. This guy, and partnering him with Lonzo and Drew Holiday. Lonzo, getting back to his roots as a facilitator. Zion out there running the wing. They're going to be a tough out. I look for them to be a lot like the Oklahoma City Thunder years ago with Scotty Brooks, as I've alluded to. In those first years with Westbrook and Durant. Okay, it's not about losing. Okay, when you have a good team, a good culture, guys that are blue collar, coach that's trusting the process. Shout out to Brett Brown. This is his time to shine. You got to get it done. Okay, but you're not losing in these early phases. You're learning how to win. That's what I'm expecting from New Orleans to battle LA Christmas Day. It's just going to be bananas because you have two teams, folks. Iguodala and the Grizzlies are trying to work this out. Iguodala goes to the Clippers. You're talking about strength versus strength. People don't realize. The Lakers and Rob Pelinka, what they've done this lineup, they're loaded. People are sleeping. They have Rajon Rondo and they have Avery Bradley. They have Danny Green and they have Latavius Pope. Obviously, LeBron's there. You have guys behind him. Kuzma with the injury. It's a stress reaction, so he's got to sit. I think Kuzma might be out till Christmas Day, frankly, because if it's a stress factor, you're done for the year, and we can't risk that. So this has to, but Kuzma, you got LeBron and you got Kuzma. Okay, you got AD, you have AD there, you have McGee and you have Dwight Howard. They have great depth to go along with their headliners. Jason Kidd there, to connect with the players. Frank Vogel, a great strategist. So you have two basically head coaches, which you need to be successful. Clippers. We already know Doc Rivers, his pedigree and that great staff. Lawrence Frank was his assistant, now he's in the front office. And obviously you have Jerry West overseeing everything, okay, and bringing them back to prominence just like that. Great executive in team sports history. It's not even close. We'll get to that more in other episodes, all right? But goodness gracious, by golly, Miss Molly, okay, Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, Kawhi, Paul George, Montrezl Harrell. It's just frightening, okay, and a lot of up-and-comers. Zubac, young guy that we brought over from the Lakers, that bench is thorough as well, and it's looking like they're going to get Iguodala. That's where he wants to go. That's my prediction. Goodness. Houston and those guys trusting the process, wanting to play with, having the enthusiasm. And, you got an offensive genius with Mike D'Antoni who showed you that. So if they were successful with Chris Paul and James Harden, they're going to be more successful with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Those guys buying in. It hurt they lost Ariza, so they're going to have to replace him. But goodness gracious. Folks, that's going to do it. Go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe as you feel the need. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for tuning in to SandCity Sports, and we will see you here back again the next time.
do sedate ourselves. Just in numbers, pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to retake ourselves. So yes, we peace of souls do sedate ourselves. Just in numbers, pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to embrace ourselves. Yeah.